Well, we welcome you this Easter Sunday to Heritage Christian Church, and we're glad that you can join us in this way. I'm so grateful that we're sharing ever since this started in this way. Today we're going to do something a little bit differently. David, our Minister of Administration, is going to share some announcements, some prayer requests, and talk about communion perhaps, and then share a special before I give the message. God bless you as you listen. David?
Good morning and happy Resurrection Sunday. We do want to try to give a few announcements so that you're aware of what's going on and what will be coming once the ban is lifted and we're able to have corporate worship. But two things in particular. We've had a number of people, and we thank you for that, but and we're not requesting it, we're just stating it to help. We've had a number of people that have asked about offering. What can we do with our offering? And we want you to know that we don't want to keep you from doing that, but that's nothing that we're insisting on at all, by no means. And if you'd like to do that, our church office is at 156 East Spring Valley Pike, Centerville, Ohio, 45458. And if you'd like to send your offerings in, they will be taken from there right to our treasury. We've also had a number of families that have talked about communion, said we'd like to have communion as a family, and we know you can get your grape juice, you can get the bread, but the cups are the problem. And so we are going to next Saturday from 9 to 11, there'll be someone here in gloves and a mask that will be able to pass out communion cups so that you can have your communion at home. The grape juice, the unleavened bread you can pick up at the grocery store, but those cups are a little bit difficult. Now, as far as announcements, once our doors are open again, we want you to know that we will be starting 2 new Sunday school classes, a junior high and a senior high class led by John Spence, a basic Christianity 101 that I'll be leading. We are going to schedule a special Easter Sunday service once we're open on a different date, as well as begin our Friendship Sunday preparations. We want to give a big special thank you to Mike Vogel. If you haven't had a chance to go by our building, please go by and see the He is Risen sign out in front, as well as the small sign saying, God is still in control. We thank Mike for taking care of that. As for prayer concerns, we have just a few. Jim and Pat Smith. Jim has been facing cancer, and sadly the cancer is still growing. He will start new chemo on April 24th. He's in good spirits, but requests the prayers. Rita Elder's brother-in-law, Lonnie Sporing, who had brain surgery. He was home for a little while, but he has gone back into the hospital, and once the staples are taken out, they'll begin radiation. All the residents at Quaker Heights and any of the other assisted living communities, as well at home, I do want to do a shout out to Jeannie Hughes, who on her own has set up a worship service at 10 a.m. at Quaker Heights, which I think is great. Wilma's son David Hurley is at home following surgery, and he's awaiting treatment for cancer. Larry Tucker is improving at home and doing well. And Marie and Donnie Moore. Marie is preparing to meet Friday with the oncologist, and so we want to keep them in prayer as well. If you have any prayer concerns, please email those to Randy or myself, and we will be glad to say something about that. Because we're in the Easter season, I want to share a song. Bear with the voice, it's a little rough, but I want you to listen to these words because they're so meaningful.
There's a line that is drawn through the ages. On that line stands an old rugged cross. On that cross, a battle is raging for the gain of man's soul or its loss. On the one side march the forces of evil, all the demons and all the devils of hell. On the other, the angels of glory, and they meet on Golgotha was killed. The earth shakes with the force of the conflict, and the sun refuses to shine. For there hangs God's Son in the balance, and then through the darkness he cries, "It is finished, the battle is over. It is finished, there'll be no more war. It is finished, the end of the conflict. It is finished, and Jesus is Lord." Yet in my heart the battle still rages. Not all prisoners of war have come home. These were battlefields of my own making. I didn't know that the war had been won. But then in my heart, the King of all ages had fought all my battles for me. And victory was mine for the claiming. And now, praise his name, I am free. It is finished, the battle is over. It is finished, there'll be no more war. It is finished, the end of the conflict. It is finished, and Jesus is Lord. It is finished, Jesus is Lord. And you can be guaranteed that. Thank you, David. Powerful. Well, some of you have heard of a minister by the name of John Ortberg from California. He tells the story of a friend of his who was attempting to tell the resurrection story in a children's sermon. Talking to children is always risky business because you never know what they're going to say. He asked a question, a kind of a rhetorical question: what were Jesus' first words to his followers after he was raised from the dead? And a little girl raised her hand and was just so anxious to say her answer, so he decided to call on her. And she said, the first thing Jesus said was this: ta-da, ta-da. That's not what he said. But John Ortberg said it was as good a translation as any, ta-da. I want to read to you the first words of Jesus after the resurrection from Matthew 28. It's the passage of the first gospel that goes like this: after the Sabbath, at dawn on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to look at the tomb. There was a violent earthquake, for an angel of the Lord came down from heaven and, going to the tomb, rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothes were white as snow. Listen to this: the guards were so afraid of him that they shook and became like dead men. They went into almost a catatonic state of just not moving at all. The angel said to the women, "Do not be afraid, for I know that you are looking for Jesus who was crucified. He's not here. He has risen, just as he said. Come and see the place where he lay. Then go quickly and tell his disciples he has risen from the dead and is going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him. Now I have told you." So the women hurried away from the tomb, afraid, yet filled with joy. What a statement. They were afraid, yet filled with joy, and ran to tell his disciples. Suddenly Jesus met them. "Greetings," he said. They came to him, clasped his feet, and worshipped him. Then Jesus said to them the first words, "Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee, and there they will see me." Preaching Christianity primarily is preaching the resurrection. It's all about the resurrection. For instance, the life of Jesus may be interesting to some people historically or religiously, but it's the resurrection from the dead that gives his message power. We have no power to challenge people to do anything, be anything, or believe anything outside of the resurrection of Christ. I want to tell you a story that I think will touch you deeply in terms of the resurrection. It was 13 years ago this week that a violinist by the name of Joshua Bell, one of the great violinists of his day and still is, I believe, went to a Plaza subway station in Washington, D.C. He had on a sweatshirt and a baseball cap. He was what was called a busker, a street entertainer familiar to those who frequent public transportation, just people that show up at a train station, open up a guitar case or a violin case, and start playing music. He started to play, Joshua Bell did. But he didn't play anything. He started with a Bach piece that is one of the most challenging pieces for the violin. He wasn't playing just any violin, it was a 1713, get the year, 1713 violin, handcrafted by Stradivari, so famous that it had been stolen twice. The violinist was Joshua Bell, one of the greatest, and was an accomplice with the Washington Post newspaper and willingly participated in an experiment. Here's the experiment. He started playing, and people just continued to walk by, this guy in a baseball cap and a sweatshirt. Very few people paid attention to him. He was used to getting, get this, paid at the time, 13 years ago, $1,000 a minute for his concerts. $1,000 a minute. He got about $32 that day that people threw into his violin case. It was 3 minutes into his performance. 63 people had rushed by. One man finally stopped and looked, but didn't stop. It was 6 minutes before one man stopped, leaned against the wall and listened. In total, over 1,000 people rushed by without giving any attention at all for 15 minutes. His take for the day was $32. $32. Joshua Bell, as I said earlier, usually made $1,000 a minute. Now the result, this is what I shared that whole story just to tell you this one line. The author of the article, Gene Weingarten, said that people walked around him like ghosts. And, people walked around ghosts, but he was the real deal. He was the real thing, but they were like ghosts walking around him. And you know where I'm going with this. We live in a culture today. Jesus is the real deal. He's alive forevermore, and people are busy with their work, and people are busy with their schedules and their athletic activities, their music activities, and we walk like ghosts around the Master. And today I'm calling your attention to the one who said, don't be afraid. And maybe the words of Jesus are what you need to hear. Don't be afraid in 2020 during the coronavirus situation. Trust in him. Trust in the one who conquered death, can conquer your fear and mine over this virus. Friday on the radio, I shared a story about Stuttgart, Germany, where a cross was put on a created mountain, 1,675 feet in altitude, with the rubble of World War II bombings. And I shared a picture 3 years ago that I want to share with you today of my 2 older grandchildren standing near the cross over the city of Stuttgart, Germany. Charlie's got his hand up in the air in a sign of victory. And what a symbol it is for me that the victory is in the empty cross. And the power of the empty cross is this. I want to leave you with this story. William Willimon said, "I'm haunted by a long conversation I had with a man who was a member of one of my early congregations. He had a vision of the presence of the risen Christ, but never told anyone before or after," he explained. He said, "The reason why I told no one was I was too afraid that the story of the resurrection was true." Isn't that amazing? He never witnessed anyone because he was afraid it was true. And if it was true that Jesus was really real and he did rise from the dead, I'd have to change the way I live. I'd have to change the way I live. What would happen in your life today in 2020 if you really believed that Jesus is alive forevermore and that he conquered death? Maybe he would change your life. Not you changing your life, but the resurrected Christ could come into your life and change you. Last week I shared the verse in Luke 20 where Jesus said that we are the children of the resurrection when we believe in him. You are either a child of the resurrection or a child of hopelessness. And I really believe it's that simple. We are children of the resurrection, meaning we have hope in a hopeless world. We can overcome fear not because we're so brave and we're so strong, but because of the one we believe in. His name is Jesus. Let's pray to him right now. Lord, thank you for the opportunity to meet together in this way. It's a simple way. Thank you for the music we heard. It is finished. What Jesus came to do, his death on the cross, that takes away our sin. But his resurrection gives us the power to live and the power for hope. And we claim both, his death on the cross and his resurrection from the dead. Bless every person watching today. May we realize that we serve a risen Savior and he's in the world today. I know that he is living, whatever men may say. We can believe that, trust that, because we believe in the one who conquered death, Jesus Christ, the Son of the living God. In his name we pray. Amen.